everyone, welcome to Her Winning Journey podcast, where our unique stories are realized, understood, and results in us living out our purpose with strength and dignity. On today's episode, we'll be diving into the topic of who am I, the meaning of becoming. I'm joined today by the remarkable Etheleen Abraham. She was born and raised on the French Caribbean island of St. Martin. She's the wife of Catherina Abraham and mother of Zion Abraham, while professionally she works in real estate at Dircher Real MO. Currently, along with her husband, they lead a movement called the Alternative Church, a place where you unlearn untruth. You can also catch her online blog, The Chronicles of Zion, on YouTube and Facebook. Be enriched, be encouraged, be empowered by this story. I am your host, Catherina Carbon. Miss Etheleen, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon. I am doing good.
Awesome, great. Thank you for taking the time out to be here with us today and accepting the invitation to come and speak to us and share with us from your heart on this particular topic that we have for today.
Yes.
So one of the things we realize throughout many of our lives, many times, is who am I versus who we want to be. Too often we struggle with the image sometimes that we create for ourselves, whether it would be for the next few months or years, versus that instinct or that which is embedded within us. We struggle time and time again. What we see often is that we may have a battle of, recognizing our identity and being able to acknowledge it and embrace it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that comes to mind is when we ask ourselves and get down to the nitty-gritty of it, where does this conflict stem from? How does it start?
So I'm just going to give a little thing about me, because as you were saying that we have the ones that we want for ourselves. So when I was younger, I remember telling my cousin, I don't want to be a Christian and I want to smoke cigarettes. That is the life that I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
And looking back now to seeing what all God has done in my life and where I'm at this point, I was like, that's just foolish talk at that time. But I have to say that, getting that that idea, that mental thing had to come from the environment around me.
Sure.
And so one of the things that really disrupt things for us, understanding who we are in different things, is our environment and what we choose to take in, what we choose to adopt as mindsets, ideologies, and different things. And that's, where, it's going to send us soon down the road of talking about our creator and what has been within us.
True. And,
as I told you with one of the points that I sent from someone, I think his name is Elijah Shanak. He was saying that, this generation, he doesn't understand this generation because they are in pursuit of purpose.
Correct.
Why are we pursuing something that is already in our bellies or within us? And so we have been looking out for, confirmation on who we are, whereas it's embedded within us.
Correct.
And it just needs to be unlocked or unveiled. And only the one who placed it there can do that. So I think that's where the conflict happens, when we look around, we look for references outside and not looking within for who we really are.
No, I definitely agree with you on that one. And a lot of times we see when it comes to, let's say, for example, family members or parents, they place certain expectations on us, growing up from childhood straight up until adulthood. We see that there are so many expectations from others placed on us. And that is added pressure.
Yes.
That is added pressure.
It is. And even for myself, being a mother and a parent with my husband concerning my child, we always have this thing is we want to know what Zion's purpose is from early. so that we look at ourselves as managers. And
Correct.
so we are not there to impose on top of her, you know, I think that being a doctor is the in thing. So no, it is really understanding as God is revealing to us what she's supposed to do.
Correct.
To really guide her in that thing. And that's something that my husband and myself always talk about.
Yes.
Because we've seen where that sort of mindset destroy a lot of children.
Yes.
And put them in paths, and then there's no passion, there's no love for what they do. So yeah, for my 4-year-old, it's like we are constantly looking at her.
Yes,
looking
yes.
at the little things that she's doing, how she speaks. Like now, music is her thing. I mean, she just sang a song word for word.
Wow.
I mean, she can't even do all her sentences properly, but she could catch on to music. So that is already something that is striking to us. Like, look at that, you know? So, yeah.
No, I agree. And as you mentioned from the quote that you shared with the generation, something that is also playing a big role is social media.
Ooh.
Social media, the image and the things that we see, the pressure that comes with it for this generation is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And one of the things, as I would say, is as we are going on our journey with God, it's all about stillness and meditation in order for us to really see God and understand God. And the distraction of social media, I personally had to unfollow a number of people.
Yes.
Because we underestimate the impact that it could have on our mental. And once our mental is distorted, then we are unable to hear God or see God effectively.
Correct.
And so I need my state of mind to stay intact. And so certain things on social media, even the news.
Yes, the news.
We stopped looking at the news for a while because it is really a manipulative kind of tool at times when you look at it, where they are trying to condition your mind and everything, because, you know, as you think, so you're going to be. So you have to really take care of that. And so if you're being fed a narrative or an image or whatever, after a while, so added pressure again.
Pressure. I agree. I definitely agree. And one of the things you mentioned before is, you know, going back to the creator. And that is something that is so important. If we think about who we want to be versus who we are, we realize that the main, how shall I say, the main factor between there is our creator.
Yeah.
You know, and something that you mentioned, which was so true, is that he has the original intent for us as beings.
Yes.
Like, he's our maker, and everything that we should be is actually wrapped up inside of us.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we look at a creator, inventor, maker, whatever, whenever they choose to design something or, you know, they give it a purpose, a reason for being. And something that revolutionized my life is in Psalms 139, if I'm not mistaken, verse 16. And that happened because I met someone and I was speaking with her, and she said, I would have never thought that, because she went on the road of politics and stuff. And she said, I would never think that I would be down this road. Okay. However, something within me feels as though someone already wrote that concerning me. Wow. And now I'm living it out. And she's a believer, but maybe not a mature believer or whatever. Yeah. And so when she said that, that really struck my attention. And then I ended up on Psalms 139, where it was talking about before we lived one day, you know, he had already knew us. Correct. And he had written in his book concerning us what we were supposed to be. And one of the translations, which is the Passion Translation, I love it. And so when I saw that, I sent it to her and I said, somebody indeed wrote something in their book concerning you. Yeah. So what you're living out today, even though that wasn't in your plans, you know, it is that. Correct. And so for us, when we find ourselves in that conflict, we have to ask ourselves, are we reverting to the maker,
Correct.
our creator,
Correct.
the one who has the blueprint concerning us? And sometimes we are lost.
Yes.
And we really need to like just shut down everything and really look within. So yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. And it brought me back to a statement. I believe it was Dr. Miles that mentioned it, where he stated that if you want to know the design and function of a thing, you have to go back to the manufacturer.
Yes.
And it is so, so true. That's where we lose sight, as you mentioned, of who we truly are.
Yeah.
And that's where the conflict comes in, and, you know, that battle of understanding our true identity. And thinking about it, when we mention original intent, that probably means that somewhere along the line we could lose sight of it, because original is something that was there from the foundation.
Yes.
It already exists.
Yes.
So, you know, losing sight of that really and truly can cause us to not walk in our purpose, causes us to malfunction. And, you know, early on you mentioned a good point of causing us to perhaps go rogue.
Yes. I honestly, I love that word, because we really go rogue at times. You know, I look back at my life and, you know, look at where you are now, when you go back in some spaces and times where you were, and I'm like, yeah, I went wrong.
Oh, man.
But I was thinking on that all today. Even in my rogue phase or whatever, that was still on the road to where God would have me to be.
So true.
I was just trying to look and say, if this had to be different, you know, would I reach to this point that brought me to this point, that I know that you really wanted me to be here and do that and be this person today.
Correct.
But if I didn't go through that mistake and that relationship and that season, I don't think so. For me, I don't have regrets. I don't have regrets.
Correct.
I thank God for everything that I've been through. I thank God for the mistakes that I've made, because it brought me here. And so, yeah, but we do go rogue, and it's just to encourage people that if you feel like you have deviated from whatever, it's like all of that, God has a way of switching it and turning it for His good. And it leads us to where we're supposed to be. So be encouraged. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And when we go rogue, you mentioned such an excellent point of not having regrets. One thing I can also, just to piggyback from what you mentioned, the same thing with myself too as well. When you look back at, you know, those times where you felt so frustrated, you felt lost, you was like, is this really the place and the space I need to be in? When I look at it, it helps to develop character.
Definitely.
A part of it helps it to develop character. Some experiences, some encounters with individuals, you know, somewhere else down the line, tie into your purpose, you may actually come back to these same individuals, but just on a different frequency, on a different page. But those connections were needed for that journey that you were traveling to, fulfilling your purpose.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, because even for depending on where God would have you and what to do, for me as a person who He has, whether we lay in His word, my thing, I believe that's how He fashioned me, is that to speak from a place of the known. And so if I don't know it, then how am I supposed to effectively relay that and really make the connection? Because you're not just teaching something from, you know, you're pulling from somewhere and you're trying to teach it. You're teaching from experience.
Correct.
And so all the more, you know, from, you know, relationships that didn't go well, or friendships, or even individuals, and how we deal with individuals, how we deal with conflicts and different things like that. It builds you, and it gives you, you know, firsthand to say, like, if you're teaching on something or relaying something, you know what you're talking about.
True.
So yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And, you know, having that connection with our Creator is so important, because what we realize is that if we live lives, as you mentioned, if we live lives totally submitted to God, then our desires and our wills should line up with the reason why we were created.
That's correct. That's a good one, and that's where I am, and any individual should be. I am trying to relate to all my friends that, okay, so we born in church. I just
Yes.
say it like that. We born in church. Our parents, when my mom got saved, it was a bit before I was born. So I tell people I was born in church.
Yeah.
So we know about church and everything of that sort, and we know an idea of God and different things like that. And so you always hear them talk about spending time with God and different things like that. But I've come to a place in my life where, okay, I don't know what aspect they were speaking about, but for me,
Correct.
that intimacy with God, that is where I'm at, and I long for it.
Correct.
Because what I've realized is that through abiding or spending time with God, I put it simple, spending time with God and making that a daily thing, it develops the relationship. Just like in the natural, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and the more time you spend with them, then you get to understand them, then you learn their voice, then you understand that when they speak that way, that's when they feel that way. Or it's the same thing.
Right.
We are not serving a God or a maker that is doesn't talk or he can't hear. He's a very conversational God. And so I long for that and really experiencing God on a daily basis, because I need to know what I'm supposed to do for that day.
Correct.
And so if we don't develop that relationship with God, and my thing is, it's not just reading the Word of God, but I apply meditation and biblical meditation, because as we were saying before, social media is so it is demanding our attention.
Oh yes.
And even other things, distractions and stuff, and our mind is never still. And only when we are still, that's when we could know God. The Word of God says about be still and know that I'm God. And when we talk about knowing the biblical sense, it's not just information, whatever, but it's about intimately knowing that person. And so that's something that's still in everything. I fight for my peace of mind. It's like I fight for my me time, because me time is me and God time.
True. So true. It's necessary.
Yes.
It's necessary. As we are beings fulfilling this journey, it is so imperative that we have that downtime where we still the voices of the very ones that we love.
Yes.
Our parents, our spouses, our relatives, our siblings. It's so important that we still their voice, because we want to be able to say, well, Lord, today is a fresh day. What it is that you want for me to do in the earth. Yes. Because we are not our own beings. Just like how we have moms and dads that, when we are growing up, or even sometimes as we are older now, they tend to want to direct us or encourage us, or, tell us, well, hey, this may not be it. It's the same thing with the spiritual too as well. We have our Heavenly Father, who is all sovereign, who's our creator, who's the one that is in control. And we cannot take our lives for granted and say, well, hey, I want to do this. I want to do it my way. I want to do X, Y, Z. Versus not really consulting, well, Lord, is this the step that you want me to take today? And we can only do that when we know his voice. When we spend that time with him, when we
see him as well.
Exactly. So that is how we are going to be able to effectively live our lives here on earth.
Yes. For me, I look at every day as a day where you are the individual, you're on assignment.
Correct.
And so you need your briefing. You need to know what you're, what you're set out to do. And so that is, for me, it's like when I am not able to spend time with God, it's like I get irritated, to be honest, in the house. I get irritated because I'm just feeling like, okay, I'm just going all blind, and I have to tap into the reserve that I had, or the information that I had of yesterday or last week, in order to make decisions and make good judgments and stuff in every situation. So yeah, I practice that, and it is very beneficial for me. And I try to encourage all my friends, because the experience of things that I, encounter and God gives me the solutions for, it is in my secret place, in my secret time with Him.
Correct.
And so, some people go there and say, "Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, God. Oh, what?" Blah, blah, blah. No, it's spending time with God. That's where it came from.
Oh yes, definitely. And as you touch on that point, sometimes when individuals see you, doing this and doing that, sometimes within themselves, they get a little bit frustrated. They're probably deep down within themselves, they're wondering, okay, if she is executing this, she is walking it out day by day, Lord, what am I to be able to do? Like, our peers and our friends and many of us that still struggle with, okay, Lord, who really am I? I'm seeing this person doing this, but who really am I? I'm so frustrated. I feel like the time is passing by. Like I am already 40 years, I'm already 50 years, and I still feel like I'm still trying to figure this thing out. Like it is,
Yeah, and with that point, it comes back to, people are looking outwardly and looking at their peers, or looking at not maybe people that they don't like, and comparing themselves. That's why for me, the word competition, I really don't like it, because for me, we are all given a specific task, a specific purpose, and all of us play a part in the earth.
Correct.
And so it's like we are a piece of that puzzle, and when everybody play their part, that puzzle comes together and it reflects something to God, and which He can see. So that is why for me, I don't compete with nobody.
Yes.
I don't grade myself for anything. And I think the world that we are living in, it has become that, where it's like, boy, I see this one doing that, so what about me? But I am in my lane, doing what I'm supposed to do. And to be honest, I've come to a place where I don't give, with other people, because okay, you're doing your do, like I'm doing my do. And some people might mistake it for cockiness or whatever, but it's just confidence in the plan that God has for me. And that's where I am at. I'm minding my business. Let's put it so.
No, but I totally understand. And one thing that was mentioned was looking at our desires. Looking at our desires and our wants as probably being indicators that would help us to know, okay, who really am I? Like, what am I here to do in the earth?
Yeah.
And I think that is so important to pay attention to those key factors. Instead of, trying to be a little frustrated with our next door neighbor. One key thing is looking at those desires, looking at those wants, and saying, okay, God, this is what I'm passionate about. Could this perhaps be the direction that I should go in?
Yes, and that is important. We have to look at our wants, our desire, and see if they are submitted to God, first of all, because our environment can create, send that download within us, spiritually, for us to want these things and stuff like that. And then when you look at it, or you take it apart, you realize that, hey, I only got this one because of what I saw. But if it's something that is really embedded, or something that you just get an excitement, or something that you can't really express or explain, that is something that is divine. And so you follow those things. And even for persons who are coming into that 40-year mark and checking, like, okay, what am I am really, for me, when I got the clear understanding of purpose, and even that, it allowed me to look back. And when I look back, it's like, wait, I was on purpose all the time. And so it is a great encouragement, not for us, even though we discover certain things at a certain age, or what they really mean, to say, boy, I wasn't doing anything. No, it's like I look back, even from my profession, I'm in real estate, And over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
this thing just came over me, starting to assess properties. And it's like nobody around me did that. And then I was in a bad spot, but met a connection there. And that's when I went to England, studied. And 12 years down the line, I'm looking back and I'm saying, like, oh, that is why God did this. That is why, although I was in a bad spot pertaining, in my opinion and my mother's opinion. God used it for his good.
True. That's so true. It's so true. Oh man, no,
Yeah,
that is true.
I had to put that in there.
No, that is so true. Like, God, sometimes we may feel that God's timing is off. When really and truly it's not his timing. Like, he is always on time. You may see a 6-year-old being this full-blown singer, this full-blown minute dance minister, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Versus it may come to pass like when you are 30 years old, etc. But it doesn't mean that God's timing was off.
I mean, he knows time in his hand. I mean, he's the creator of it, so we can't put him in that box there and say that you're governed by time now.
Exactly.
It's like, I made time.
No, for real. And the thing is, sometimes when we look back over our lives, we realize all along he was revealing it to us.
Yes.
But sometimes we become so stubborn and we feel like, let's say, for example, if I am this person that is so passionate about music, I love music, I can play the violin or whatever instrument really good. Deep down inside, sometimes you know that you're probably an eloquent speaker and you're wondering, okay, what should I do with this?
Yes.
And then there may be little hints along the way where there are opportunities that you forfeited because you felt, no, I'm more passionate about music. God, I don't think you call me to be a coach, or I don't think you call me to be a speaker or anything to that effect. Not realizing that all along too as well, God was hinting it to you, but you were running away from that one thing. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden you have to surrender, being totally submitted and say, you know what, Lord, here I am. This is me. I'm not gonna run away from it.
And sometimes when we're backed up in the corner, that's when we're like, okay, here I am, and different things. But God always gives us, I call them snapshots. And for my entire life, I've been getting snapshots. And some people feel like their entire purpose is going to be revealed to them, the whole thing. And as humans, we always feel, oh, I can handle this information. I can handle all of that. And God is like, humble yourself. You can't handle everything.
Correct.
And so our purpose and everything that he reveals to us is like an increment. It's a little portion. It is snapshots, as I said. He would give you the next year. It's like, deal with the year. We want the 5 years, but deal with the year.
Exactly.
Achieve it, and then we go. And that has been my entire life, because for me, even with one of the most important decisions that I had to make, which was get married to my husband.
Correct.
Even in that, because I invited him in every aspect of my life. So whether it's personal, whether it's with me, whether it's my business, God is all up in it, because whenever I present myself and say I am, then I am calling and activating him.
Correct.
And so he's the one that allows me to be who I am. And so with getting in with in a relationship with my husband, Castel, a certain point is like I had a snapshot. I call them snapshot, but it's like a vision, and it was just showing me that I saw myself 50 years down the line with Castel being my life partner.
Correct.
And with that just let me go like, okay, let's do this.
True.
But all of the detail, I didn't get it. If he had given me a heads up instead, that he would have been a pain in the butt. That would have been good. But he just shows us, most time he shows us the end of a thing, and then we walk through this. And so this whole thing with purpose being revealed is a lifelong journey thing, where every day we are being revealed by him.
I love it.
And he's unlocking things, and so we're not gonna get it in the whole thing because we can't handle it.
I love it.
So
No, I love it. And as you said that, Etheleen, I'm not sure if you're going to remember this, but when I came back home to St. Martin in 2015, you and we saw each other. I can't remember where it was exactly. And being back home for me, I felt like a fish out of water.
I think that conversation we had.
I felt like a fish out of water. And you told me something that up to this day, we're in 2020, 5 years later, I replay it in my mind when I start to feel discouraged.
You're gonna have to tell it to me.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna tell you. You told me, don't worry, Cathy. In time, it would be revealed as to why you had to be back home. And there are moments, Etheleen, where I'm like, God, why? Like, why am I here?
Yeah. Wow.
But as time goes along, he revealed it in increments, and I'm like, okay, God, this is one reason why I had to be here. This is the other reason why I had to be here. It may not be forever, but for this season, this is why I had to be here.
And I'm sure in that time I didn't have that revelation that I have now. But it's God who was speaking through me, because it's quite recently, it's like, okay, I see how God revealed things, but I know that at the time we were struggling with coming back home, where you feel like the standard just dropped. And so you were over in a bigger country and things were so quick, so professional, and then you have to come back home and not knocking home, but it's like the standard just, and it's like there's a conflict. And what God had to remind me is that, there's a purpose for you to be in St. Martin. And then after meeting Castor, when I came back, and then, a number of things that happened, and I was like, okay, clearly. And for me, back over there, God told me clearly, like it was like a person speaking, is that I need you to go back to St. Martin to work with the youth department at the ministry that we were at. And so it was like, okay, we do that. And I didn't know how that was going to work, because I wasn't on a board. I was, before that, I had gone rogue, so I wasn't going to church. So it's like, how that is gonna work. And then I came back, and then I got invited to a meeting, and then I just ended up staying on the board, and then work with the youth for a number of years. So God reveals himself.
He does. In time, he reveals it in time. And it's so important that we stay in tune to him, because you mentioned something where we are assets. We are assets. We are assets in the earth.
We are. And the thing is that when you understand that you're on mission, that you have assignments each day, you really understand that, wait, I'm not just anybody.
Correct.
I was just thinking today, back when I was younger, I used to ask myself, why am I here? I wish I was never born, and those kind of questions and stuff. And I know that a lot of young people struggle with that. But for now, really understanding who God is, being having him reveal himself to me, it lets me understand that I am an asset in the kingdom of God. And it allows me to understand that I'm also valuable. So, it's like, as I say, confidence gone all the way up. So it's not that you're cocky or you're over thing. You're in your lane, you're doing your part, because others have their part to play, but you're playing your part, but you understand that, hey, I am an asset to God, to the Creator, and I have to achieve something here on earth. And so you don't carry yourself, or even if, you don't get in nonsense, like, those are things that, God is just dealing with me with. It's like a day, it had some little drama. And at the end of the day, it's like, spend time with God. God was like, yo, it's like, you wasted time there. That is my time you wasted. And I got out of God's presence feeling so convicted and feeling like a dodo for the time that I wasted with a person and this conflict and stuff. And like now, I'm just trying to shift that. So, you put value on your time, on your life, on the way you carry yourself and stuff. So you because you realize that you're an asset.
And I definitely agree with you. It's that looking at it from a different perspective, that mind shift that causes you to operate and function differently. That is so, so true. And we know along this journey too as well, one of the things we would encounter with truly being who we are sacrifices. Our sacrifices. We can't run from the sacrifices. We can't run.
One of my sacrifices is that God chose to wake me up 3 o'clock in the morning. Pastor said that's not his portion, and he said, God, if you're thinking on that, you better hold off on that. But that is one of the things, when you hear 3 o'clock in the morning, you heard those things from our mother and generation,
Oh, yes.
And when that started happening to me, I asked God for a break because it's like, I tired these days. I had to remind him that I have a toddler and just, certain projects that I'm trying to close out for the end of the year.
Yeah.
But that it would be clockwork. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
He would wake me up, and that is when I could have that quiet time and that time to have relationship with him, to hear him, to see him, and for him to talk to me. And so you have to make those sacrifices. Also, once you understand who you are, in certain situations you just be the big person.
Correct.
And sometimes you don't want to be the big person.
That is true.
You just want to be petty. But you just realize that this maturity about you is just coming along, and it's not you, it's him that is really fortifying you and making the sacrifices. And sometimes you can't go to certain places because it's like your time is valuable.
Oh yeah.
So
No, I agree. And in addition to your time, I also believe too that our relationships they become sacrificial lambs, because sometimes we get so busy. Well, for me personally, I've had people walk away because they're like, oh man, you're so busy. You're so this. And in my mind, I'm like, what? Like, how can you find me so busy? But then I have to redirect my focus and say, you know what? I believe that I am walking in a direction that God is calling me, and when the time is right, the right person will come along and understand that it's about purpose and that we can walk together in that agreement. And then, as you mentioned, places that you end up sacrificing to as well. I think sometimes you end up your resources. I mean, your funds, your home, your spaces, all these things for the calling of who you are, they become sacrifices.
And for me, and even in my journey, sometimes we look at friends who fall away, and probably they're not for the season where you're the season that you're in.
Correct.
What I've found is that going deeper into the season and the assignment God has had for my life is that he brought the friendship, the covenant friendships that I needed. And it brings me to David and Jonathan relationship. When David did what he did by killing the giant, Jonathan was able to identify something in him. And then he decided I need to get close to this guy because there's purpose that has to be that comes from his life. And Jonathan submitted himself to him to help him, to push him, because he saw something. And I am thankful that I have friends. I have a circle of friends that God has put in my life for such a time as this. And honestly, I've seen in a year time what I've been able to achieve is because I have friends. And even God told me that one day. It's like, I achieved a number of things for this year. And he said, because you have friends, it's going to happen this time. And so, there are friends who we don't speak. I'm not a person to be on a phone every minute. But we all understand that. And when we need each other, we meet, we text, we do whatever. But I'm not a person to be on the phone every minute with. My schedule is really packed, and they know, and their schedules are also packed. But we have that connection that knows that, hey, we got to bear each other up in prayer. If God speaks to me for Etheleen, I have to relay that and stuff like that, because it's all about a purpose being achieved through Etheleen and being achieved through them, because it's not just a one-way thing. It is, interchangeably thing. So So don't be bummed out. It's just about the right friends coming along and coming. One of my friends said that, you know, she felt like God told her that she needs to walk alongside me.
Wow.
And that is something that I've never heard before. And so I am blessed. I have to say, I'm blessed.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing when they see it, they can understand it, they touch and they agree. Because there are moments where it can feel overwhelming.
It is.
Seriously, but they step in at the right time to bear you up in prayer, to give you that word of encouragement that you need. It is so important, as you said.
And some people feel like it's only about things about God or church stuff, but no, you know, it's from, you know, my professional life.
Correct.
You know, for when dealing with certain assignments and stuff like that, they'll be like, hey, Etheleen, you came up in while I was praying today, and I got you. And I would be like, hey, yeah, keep me up because I have this doing, that doing, this come up and whatever. So it's not just about, you know, like how people would think like the direct church thing, but it's all aspect of our lives because we're not putting God in a box.
So true. I agree.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree. You mentioned something where you were being woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning and it's being attached to your purpose. When that started to happen, was it a constant struggle for you in the beginning to be like, Lord, you know, no, not me, or something to that effect? Was there like a struggle with you accepting that this was who God was calling you to be, or revealing to you that you?
Well, the 3 o'clock thing happened after I said yes to God. I've been in a battle with God for years. I've been in a battle with God. As we said, we see little things, little snapshots of God telling you this is the direction you should be in. But sometimes you just feel like, I don't want it, or it is a bit too much. For me specifically, it is my prophetic aspect. From nothing, I could hear things about people, I could dream things about people, and then they come to be. And it was heavy. I didn't want it. And so I ran away for years, pretending that, until when I say, okay, God, let me start, you know, reading books, and then that acceptance, you know, dismantle the conflict that we had. And so he was able to work with me a bit more. And so the 3 o'clock is recent for this year. So by the time that 3 o'clock came, my heart was conditioned by him in order to go through it. And then once experiencing it and seeing the things that came out of it, you know, things pertaining our home, our marriage, our business, and different things, I'm like, yo, I need to get in his presence because I need more details. Like, let me know what decisions I need to make and what you want us to do. Because, I mean, we got this young lady here who wants all of these things, and we need your information. We need your intel. We need the intel for today in order for us to go out and execute the purpose, God's purpose concerning us for the day. So it became a little easier, but it's still a little balance. I'm working with God because, you know, we have so many things going on. And that is one of the things. Sometimes we have too many things going on. And we can't hear him. He's speaking, so we're not hearing him because we're going, and we just need to be still. So yeah, the 3 o'clock is okay. I'm good. My friends don't get it, but they're like, God, if you're thinking on it, I'm saying no, don't. And in Castellanization, he's like, God, not, no.
Oh man, but that is good though. And for someone who may be uncertain if they are walking in their purpose or being who, or saying, well, hey, this is who I am. Like, how can they be certain that, okay, this is really who I am and it's not just a figment of my imagination? Like, what benefits can they see being attached to knowing, okay, well, this is it?
Well, for that, I would say once you are in God's presence and I always tell people this, where it concerns God speaking, they use the big word, the prophetic or prophecy.
Yeah.
What I've learned is that it has to confirm itself. And so when you're spending time with God, if you have created that and fostered that atmosphere in your life where you're spending time with God, whenever He speaks, it will confirm itself. And so if you're seeing yourself executing things, it has to, so it's going to be the flip side. So if you're doing certain things, then you need to get the confirmation when you meet with Him. It's like, you're on the right path. You know, you're going good. When He makes decisions pertaining, you know, whether it's your business, you know, and different things like that, you get the confirmation. You see that He's backing you. So those are things when His word, whether He whispers it to you or however He communicates that to you, the confirmation lets you know that, okay, I'm on track. But if you don't, you get into conflict or don't know when you don't have a reference point. So it's a reference point, you know, and so you're not looking out externally, but it's internal, and that is what you need to build. Is your spiritual relationship with God you need to build, because when you're doing things, He's gonna say, Etheleen, deviate, or it's just as I was saying, when I was in a little conflict and I spent so much time trying to resolve that, and God was like, you wasted my time. So He's able to think, so right now I'm being careful not to engage in these situations that will waste my time. And so it lets you shift things. So it all comes back to that internal relationship with God, building that up, and that's what you do daily. It becomes a habit.
It's true. I definitely agree with you. It's that inner peace that lets you know I'm on the right track. You know, it lets you know, well, I'm heading in the right direction. This is who I am. At first, there might be some uncomfortable moments. There might be people walking away, etc. But that internal peace, it only comes from you having that confirmation and knowing, okay, yes, I'm on the right path. And it's the same thing with you choosing to be, I believe, someone who you're not really called to be. There's that battle that's you're always going to be seeking, searching. There's no internal peace.
Because you're not going to get a confirmation from your Creator.
Exactly.
Because He didn't send you down that road. You chose that. Or you chose it because whether you look around and you find like, oh, that's glamorous. Everybody who doing that looking at, wait, but God is checking like, I knew you before I placed you in your mother's womb. And before you live one day on earth, I had already numbered your days.
Correct.
And so when you decide in your big bad self that I want to do this, He's checking like, okay, if you want to do it, it's okay. But there's going to be a constant conflict. There's going to be that frustration because you're going to feel like you're butting. And honestly, that was for me. I didn't have big buttons, but where it concerns whatever I would do for God, God is checking like, you can do all you want, but until you don't accept. Even we look at when we download apps and different things, everybody's asking us to click agree.
Agree. Correct. That is so true.
And so most times you want to go around the thing, but God is checking like, you need to revert back over there. You need to agree. You need to accept. And then I could unlock that thing that is already inside. Because only me can, I'm the only one with the key.
True.
So only me can do it. And so you have been looking at other people to unlock. And that's where we find people looking for this one to confirm them or affirm them and do different things. But you're not going to get what there's that want, there's that hunger inside. And it's only your Creator that could really tie that in and seal it off and let you know that, hey, you're doing good, you're on the path. I'm gonna confirm it. You want to know if your company, how your company, like for me, like I was talking to God about my company in the beginning of the year. And it's like I was just saying, God, hey, I need to know about Duta for this year and different things like that. And I had a vision about something and I wrote it down. And then I'm like, Then COVID happened. But before that, I was like, I'm not seeing how possible that was.
Yeah.
And within a week, I got this big contract. And I'm like,
Wow.
And then after that, I was happy with the first contract. And then about 3 came after during the course of COVID.
Wow.
And so our God is not limited by
true.
things or whatever. And so I rather roll with him to give me the intel concerning everything pertaining to my life. And so that is what I do, and it all starts with saying, God, hey, I'm gonna devote this life to spending, a time with you. And if it's other than 3 o'clock, that would be good. But I create a room in my life for you.
Yes.
And once we start by that, then God is gonna say, I can tell this young lady some secrets.
Yeah.
I can show her what is inside. And as I said, we are looking externally, but it is inside, and it just needs to be unlocked. So, yeah.
Etheleen, thank you so much for those words. Thank you for having this session with us today.
Yes.
I truly had an awesome time with you sharing on this, and I know we can go on and on and on because it's such a good, relevant topic.
Yes.
But before we leave today, I'll ask you, what is your last advice, words of encouragement, scripture that you would leave with our listeners today who may be struggling with, who I am versus who they want to be?
Okay. So what I would leave with at the end of all of this is we have to, and I'm really on this, like God has been giving me this, pertaining our mind, our mental health, because we cannot see God and understand what He will reveal if mentally we're not right.
Yeah.
Also our hearts, because the Word of God talk about the pure in heart. They're the ones who will be able to see God. Correct. And so when we are spending time with God, it's all about seeing Him to hear Him. And so if your heart and your mind are not, submitted under the lordship of the Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
A prince meaning he rules the state or the territory of our mind and our heart, then we're in chaos. And so I admonish people, you're not just spending time with God just for Him to reveal who you are, but you're spending time so that you will be in alignment with Him.
So good.
And when you are, then all these things will be added to you. Things will be unlocked.
Yeah.
And so that is my admonition to people. And when we spend time with God, it's really devote that time for meditation where everything becomes still. And whether you focus on God or you focus on His Word and have that on replay, because when it does, then He starts revealing Himself to us, and just that's where to start. I don't want to say too much or let it be too heavy on persons, but you start there, and then you just basically enjoy spending time with Him, and so you can stand firm and say, I am a resourceful woman, for example, because those are things that God will speak to you about in the private time that you spend, and or when you're doing things, you could see like, God had me to do this, because when I look back at my life, I always wanted this. My desires was that, and different things like that. So it shouldn't be a conflict between who I am, who I'm supposed to be, and who I want to be. But when we come into that relationship with Him in intimacy, we realize that our wants and our desires are aligned to His will, and then we're good to go. So that would be my closing words.
Thank you so much, Etheleen. This has certainly been a privilege having you here today.
I really enjoyed this.
Me too. I did also. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope that you're encouraged and inspired to do what it takes to ensure that you reign on your journey. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, be blessed.